when you get to a station, the first thing you want to look for is a red pen, right? Right, so I will go get them and show you what they look like in a minute, right? And so like I might have a red pen in this thing right here, right? So if y'all want to come over and look, what is this thing?
Liver.
Right, so liver, right? And the questions there sometimes the question might be, what is this organ or structure, right? You would say liver. Sometimes it might not ask you what it is, and it might just say, what does this organ secrete for digestion? And so what would you answer? Bile. And then what's the function of that secretion?
To break down fats.
Mechanically. Right, so mechanical digestion of fats, right? And that's what you would write down, right? So it might say, most of them are 2 to 3 questions. There might be one that has 4, right? And so it's either going to be, the first one's either going to be identify this structure or organ, but not all, right? Or it's going to be, what is it? What's the function? What does it do? What does it secrete? Right, something like that, right? So when you first get to a station, look for that red pen, right? If you go right around the corner in there, there's a little styrofoam thing on the counter right in there that's all red. You want to bring that in here for me? Right? So you're looking for a red pen.
So per station there's multiple questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So each station has multiple questions, right? Just like the last time. The last practical had 2 to 3 questions. I think one of them we made too long, and we realized that. So see what I mean? So I might take one of these red pens, right? And I might put it right here, right? So you're looking down. There might be other pens, right, that are holding things back. So like to do, you can sit up on the table, thank you. So to get to the pancreas, I might have some pins that are not red that are holding the intestines down and pushing the liver and the stomach up so we can see the pancreas. But you're always looking for the red pen, okay? And so the first thing you want to do is like, all right, is that red pen in the mouth, by the mouth or the throat? Is the red pen in the chest? Is the red pen in the abdomen, or is the red pen in the privates, right? So figure out where that red pen is, because if the red pen's in the privates, are you going to put salivary glands?
No.
That would be stupid, right? If the red pen is in the throat, are you going to put seminal vesicles or prostate gland?
No.
No. Or testes or ovaries? No. All right. So think about where the pen is in the body, right? And keep that in mind when you go to answer the question, right? Does that make sense? So that'd be the first thing I do when I get to the station. I'm like, okay, pen's in the mouth area, so it's got to be esophagus or salivary glands or one of the muscles, right? If it's in the throat, it's got to be trachea, right? In the chest, the heart, or the lungs, right? So we start up here at the top. Let's see which one has good salivary. Ooh, that's actually not bad. All right. So we look up here. All right. So let me see. Can we see this little thing right here? So that's one of our salivary glands. Okay. So I would say, what is this organ or what is this gland? And you'd say salivary glands, and then I could say, what does it secrete to aid in digestion? One secretion for digestion. What would you put?
Amylase.
Amylase. And what's the purpose of it?
To break down starches.
And then what if I said, what's another secretion for aid in digestion?
Lysozyme.
Lysozyme for
Breaking down cell wall bacteria.
cell wall bacteria, right? Right. And then what were these two muscles? I think my eyes watered for a second. So the gastrus is in the center, and what is it open or closed?
Open.
Opens. And then the two on the side,
Masseter.
masseter, and what do they do?
Close.
Close, right? So I always think masseter muscles help us masticate our food, right? Chew our food. And then the digastricus dissects the masseters, right? So that's how I remember their order.
Where's
Right?
the dye thing?
It's right here in the center, right below the jaw. It's right there.
And that one opens.
And that one opens because it's attached right here. So it's like right here to go.
Okay.
Right. All right. So salivary glands, muscles. Right. And then we work our way down. What is this white tube?
Trachea.
Trachea. What's it made of?
Cartilage.
So it doesn't what?
Collapse.
Collapse when what goes through?
Oxygen. Carbon dioxide.
So when air goes through. Right. What's the thing at the top? And sometimes we can see it. There was one really good one that had the larynx, but I'm not seeing the larynx on this one. And then what closes over this so you can, so food goes in the stomach, and that is the glottis, right? All right, so now we're in the chest cavity. What is the gland that sits on top of the heart?
Thymus.
Thymus gland. What does it produce?
T cells.
T cells, right? We have 3 kinds of T cells.
Killer, helper, and suppressor.
Killer, helper, suppressor, right? And then it sounds just like they do. Killer does what?
Kills
Kills.
pathogens.
Suppressor stops the immune response when you're well, and helper
Help.
IDs, helps because it IDs the pathogen, right? And we'll talk more about that later, right? All right, and then I have my little heart here, right? So if I had, so it depends on what it says, right? So it would be, if I have a pin in here and I say, what's this chamber? What, the left, right ventricle, right?
Mhm.
If I have it in this little flappy thing, can y'all see the difference between this little flappy thing right here and this? So this would be the what? Right atrium, right? So right atrium, right ventricle. Do you think I would pin the left? No, because the left, I have to move it all the way over to the other side to see the left, right? So you can see the right, right? So it's gonna be in the right, right? And so what kind of blood goes into the right chamber, the right atrium? Deoxygenated. And what's the blood vessel that brings blood to the right atrium? Cava. Left, what's the valve between the right atrium and right ventricle? Tricuspid. And what's the artery that, or the vein, sorry, artery that goes away from the right ventricle? Pulmonary artery. What's up, Young?
Nothing. Just saying, if you're ready to leave, but obviously not.
Yeah, well, I told him I have tutoring day because I gotta set it up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And are we just gonna, I have no idea how we're gonna do Cordell unless we do it Friday morning instead of Thursday morning. There's no way I can do it tomorrow after school. I can't do it Thursday morning, because you're not even gonna be here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go tomorrow, Wednesday, and buy some stuff.
So we could do it Friday, which is the day after his birthday, but then it would be a real surprise.
His birthday's Thursday?
Yeah. But I got tutoring Thursday morning, and I told him in McGrew's room, because the practical will be set up. So, and I gotta set up the practical and got my gymnastics boys coming right after I set it up to take it, so I don't know how we would decorate his room.
I'll see if I can do it in the morning, Thursday. Remind me.
But I thought you were gonna be gone with Cooper Thursday.
Shit, you're right. Oh, but I'll come up, cause I'll set up my classroom.
Okay.
So, sorry, I shouldn't say that word to the children. This day's been one hell of a day.
Oh, fun times.
As soon as the power goes out, stupid comes out. Like,
I know, right?
insane amount of stupid.
And it's hot in here. All right, so we got the heart, all right? And then of course the left ventricle, if I had a real heart, right? So watch the video. Well, hopefully I told Miss Revere it was in there. I made a video of the brain and the heart. How do you reckon, if I have the sheep heart that we looked at and I have it opened up, how would you identify the left ventricle?
The aorta?
It has more what? What do we know?
Oh,
Because the
more
left ventricle pumps
tissue.
where?
More muscle.
More muscle. So you're looking for the ventricle that has the thickest muscle. That has to be the left ventricle because it pumps to where?
Everywhere.
All parts of the body, top of your head, tippy toes, right? So left ventricle has the most muscle on either side. So just compare. If it has a lot of muscle, then it has to be the left ventricle. If it has a little bit of muscle, it has to be the right ventricle, right? So there's a video I made of the brain and the sheep heart, and I put it in the resources that we share. So hopefully Miss Revere, I know it's in my Schoology, right? All right, and then we talked about the gland. All right, so what are these things on the either side of the heart?
Lungs.
Lungs. All right, and so where does the actual exchange of what take place?
Oxygen,
So-
carbon dioxide.
Oxygen, carbon dioxide, in between the alveoli and the capillaries, right? And so do you think, and then it would be the right lung because it's hard to get to the left one, right? What's this right here?
Diaphragm.
The diaphragm. Notice the diaphragm, it separates. See how it nicely separates the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity, right? And what happens when you inhale, what does it do?
It contracts.
Contracts. So when it relaxes, you exhale. Okay. All right, abdominal cavity, all right? What's this?
Liver.
What does it produce for digestion?
Bile.
Bile. And what's bile's for?
Mechanically digest fats.
Mechanically digest fats. If I lift that up, I get this. What's this?
Stomach.
Stomach. All right. 3 things. Gastric gland. You don't have to know gastric glands, right? But 3 things that are secreted in the stomach. All right. What's my enzyme in the stomach?
Pepsin.
Pepsin. What biomolecules pepsin break down?
Protein.
Protein. But it has to have what to activate?
Hydrochloric acid.
Hydrochloric acid to activate. Because of hydrochloric acid, we have to secrete mucus to protect the
stomach.
lining, right? What's it called if a bacteria gets in there and starts eating away at that mucus? Y'all remember what that's called?
Peptic ulcer.
Peptic ulcers. gonna be painful, right? All right, so there's our stomach. I try very hard when I set up the practical, I try very hard not to cut anything out so you have an idea of what's there. I think that's important for you to see everything. So I might have a pen that's not red pushing the stomach down, a pen that's not red pushing the livers up, and then the red pen in this tube right here. What is this tube going into the stomach?
Esophagus.
Esophagus. What's food called there?
The bolus.
And what's the type of contraction?
Peristalsis.
Peristalsis. What's food called in the stomach? Chyme. Okay. And then I could have the stomach kind of pushed back with some non-red pens and a red pen right in this tube right here coming off of the stomach.
Duodenum.
The duodenum. Right. And then most what takes place there? One of the most missed questions on the test. Most chemical digestion takes place there. All right. And absorption of our nutrients. All right. So most chemical digestion and absorption of our nutrients, all right? And then, what is this little sliver thing right here?
Spleen.
The spleen. What happens in the spleen?
Red blood cell, like symmetry or something.
All right, so red blood cells go there to die because they don't have a what, so they can't divide. No nucleus, they can't divide. All right, if I have all this pushed down, right, and all the stomach and the liver and the spleen pushed up, probably one of the most missed things on the practical is this right here, right? That is the pancreas, right? It does not look like that little carrot thing that we drew or labeled on our human picture, right? All right, so 2 things the pancreas secretes for digestion.
Sodium bicarbonate and enzymes.
Sodium bicarbonate, and what does sodium bicarbonate do?
It neutralizes the
All right, the
acids.
chyme. So when the chyme leaves the stomach and goes into here, right, it's going to be very acidic because of hydrochloric acid, right? And so the pancreas has a little tube that connects the pancreas to the duodenum, all right, or the duodenum, and it's going to squirt the sodium bicarbonate right at the beginning there, right? And when it does that, it neutralizes the chyme, so it's not acidic anymore. So it's not going to destroy the villi, okay? And then a whole bunch of different digestive enzymes, all right? So will be secreted from the pancreas into the duodenum for digestion, right? And then what does the pancreas secrete for the endocrine? 2 things. Insulin and glucagon. Insulin, when glucose levels are high, it triggers our cells to take the glucose in, right? And then glucagon, when glucose levels are low, because it triggers the liver and your muscles to break down what?
Sugar.
Glucose.
Glycogen. Right? Breaks down glycogen, which is a bunch of glucose bonded together, right? All right. And then let's go back to stomach one more time. What's the valve inside here between the esophagus and the stomach? It's inside. You can't see it. What is that valve? Or sphincter?
Cardiac.
The cardiac sphincter. And then the sphincter between the stomach and the small intestines? Pyloric sphincter. All right. Or valve. Right.
Pyloric.
All right. Let's go over here real quick. So what is this little bean thing? Kidney. So there's our kidney. All right, so what's the main function of the kidney?
To remove, filter waste.
Filter waste, chemical waste, all right. And what's the main functional unit?
The nephron.
Nephron. And what were the 2 parts of the nephron? What was our C6? Bowman's capsule and glomerulus. The glomerulus, everything gets filtered out into the Bowman's capsule, and then the rest of the nephron is to reabsorb the good stuff, right? Everything that's not filtered back in is going to go through this little tiny tube. Just can't really see it, but there's a tube here going down here, the ureter. And where is that tube going?
The bladder.
Bladder. So where's our... This thing looks weird. There's a bladder. There's a nice little bladder right there. So there's our bladder, all right? Nice little balloon thingy down here, right? And the tube leading away from the bladder, outside the body? Urethra, all right? All right, and then the rest of the small intestine. What's in the small intestines to help with its function? The villi, okay? And then I have all this larger stuff here. Larger diameter would be, I'm looking for the cecum. This one doesn't have a very good cecum. So the large intestines, look over here. Here we go. Large intestines, there's a good large intestines. What's the main function of the large intestines? Absorb water, and it has a mutualistic relationship with what? Bacteria that help us make what?
Vitamin K.
Vitamin K, vitamin B. All right. And then you can see the rectum. All right. Can we tell a male from a female? All right. Male. All right. Because we got muy grande cojones. right, compared to body proportions. And then a female. And so tomorrow you might want to go back and look at other rats, because all the rats that y'all are dissecting are going to be the ones that we're going to use. I'm actually going to take Mr. Cordell's Anatomy and Phys Kids, because they're in the middle of AP testing, so he's not really doing much. So first period, I'm going to give him all my rats, and Mr. Veer's going to give him all her rats. And second period, Anatomy and Phys Kids are going to start pinning our rats for us. Right? So all the rats that y'all are looking at are y'all the ones going to be on your practical. So it might be a good idea to kind of move around a little bit tomorrow, because you can see a different color. Look at the color of those livers versus these livers. All right. So might be, and I think the ones in the video are this color, right?
Yeah.
So it might be a good idea to kind of look at a couple of the rats so you can see what they look like. All right. Let's do the female, because I got to cut open the male there. All right. So female, notice nothing on the outside, all right? So the female has a V-shaped uterus, all right? So we used to call it a uteri. So this down here would be called the uterine horn. I'm not going to ask you that, all right? I'm going to have probably in one of the left or the right side, all right? And it's going to ask you, read the questions. Sometimes the questions can tell you, oh, if you're asking me that, then this has to be the uterus, all right? So sometimes the questions can tell you what it is. This one's really good though. So here's the uteri, right? And you see that right there on top, right there. That would be the what?
Ovary.
That would be the ovary, right? What process occurs in the ovary to produce the eggs? Meiosis, right? And then what's the tube? You can't really see the tube, but what would be the tube that goes from the ovary,
The fallopian tube.
the oviduct, right? So, and then the female bladder is going to be right there. This one's just not a very good one. So there's the female bladder right there, right? Because it could be a male or a female that I pinned for the bladder, right?
Yeah, how do you tell the difference? Because on the male, there's like another like circular thing.
So on the male here, in between the bladder, these things right here, those are the seminal vesicles, right?
Oh.
So I say they look like seahorses. Sometimes somebody, I think Miss Lynham said they look like question marks, right?
Okay.
So those are the seminal vesicles, right? And we have the bladder. Usually at the base of the bladder, you can find the prostate gland, right? And then we do a little trimming here. Are any of y'all in 6th or 7th period? So everybody dissected today? Because with no water, without having water for the whole class, there was no way I could dissect. All right. So you'd be surprised, guys, how many people will put on the male rat put ovaries, or on the female rat put testes, or like I said, you think it's funny when I say if the pin's down here, don't put salivary glands. Well, why do I say that? Because people have done it. All right. So.
Oh.
Come on. Come on, little babies. I don't know, little sassy. All right. I know. The guys cringe when I do this. I know, I'm sorry. All right. So you can see the testy, all right? Usually they're easier to get out of here. All right. So the testes, and then we have the epididymis. Come on, see this little tissue? So all this tissue that you see in here is called mesentery. It holds everything together. Right. You can see it up here. If you spread out the intestines, see all that tissue that holds it all together? It's collectively all called mesentery, holds it up. But isn't that cool looking?
Yeah.
You can see those are the blood vessels going to the intestines. Okay. That's cool. So I told my guys, I told some classes that tomorrow you can pick one group, can decide, whoever y'all want it to be, I don't care, to take out the intestines and string them out so we can see how long they are. Right. All right, there we go. All right. So here you can see the testes, and you can see it has this little, just like the picture that was at your tables, it has that little design on there. And then what would this be down here? Epididymis. And then leading away from that, you can see there's the tube. So see that tube right there? So there's the vas deferens. All right. So what do the testes do?
Produce sperm.
So produces sperm through Meiosis. And what hormone is released? Testosterone. And then epididymis is for
Maturing.
the maturing and storing the sperm. And then the vas deferens is going to take it up and around the glands and to the urethra, right? And then what do our glands, what are the seminal vesicles and the prostate gland? What do they secrete?
Something.
So collectively, the three glands, the seminal vesicles,
Semen.
So collectively, the seminal vesicles, the prostate, and the probable urethral gland collectively produce the fluid called the semen. All right, but specifically, the seminal vesicles and the prostate produce nutrients for the sperm, right? Because they got to swim a long ways to get to the egg, right? So they need a constant supply of glucose so they can constantly making what?
Sperm.
They're constantly swimming, so they need to constantly making what?
Energy.
ATP, right? So you need a constant supply of glucose to do that. So they need nutrients, right? And then when they get deposited into the vagina by nature is acidic, right? So between the prostate and the seminal vesicle, they produce nutrients and a neutralizer to protect the sperm from the acidicness of the vagina, right? The probable urethral gland produces a second neutralizer to protect the sperm from any urine that might be in the urethra. When the urethra and the vas deferens connect, there could be some residual urine in the urethra, so it protects from that. Okay, but collectively, it's all called semen. All right, but if it asks on the practical, you're better off being more specific. Probably the better off you are. That makes sense. But short. Right, I just want short answers. There's nothing that has to be very long. The longest thing should probably be something about the alveoli and the capillary exchanging carbon dioxide and oxygen. All right, that's probably one of the longest questions there is. All right, everything else is short and sweet. Okay, anything? I think we went head to toe. Can't think of anything. You got the pictures. There's videos in the Schoology. There's pictures. So, any other questions?
How much time do we have at each station?
Probably about a minute, which never need. Most people get it all done. It's not hard.
Wait, so what does the bulbourethral gland do again?
It produces a neutralizer to protect the sperm from any urine that might still be in the urethra.
Okay.
So the sperm's going to travel through the vas deferens as it goes by the vesicles, the glands. So semens get added to it, and then when it gets into the urethra, there could still be some urine in there. And so that protects it because urine is acidic.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? So like I said, tomorrow, if you have a male rat, make sure you look at a female. If you have a female, make sure you look at a male. And then, like I said, go by and look at, because you can see a difference in the chest cavity and the abdominal cavity in these two rats, right? So look at the different coloration of the lungs here versus the two, right? Different coloration of the thymus versus the two. All right. Well, like I said, the very first thing when you get there, look at where the pin is. Mouth, chest, stomach, or abdominal area privates. All right. And you should base your answer off of that. Okay. Right. We're good?
Yep.
All right. Cool beans.
Yeah.